Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Jamie Photography. In this video, we're going to use Lightroom and Photoshop to do a sky replacement and to bring this image alive. Now, this image was shot in Venice and of the Rialto Bridge, the famous Rialto Bridge. It was early evening, the sun had gone down, and it can be quite difficult sometimes to get that shot handheld. As you can see here, I managed to pull off 15th of a second f7.1 at 1250 ISO. So we're going to keep an eye on noise as well as we go through this image, just to be sure that we're happy. So my workflow generally consists of dealing with perspective and the initial crop first. This is where I like to start in transform. So if you can't find transform, it's in the tools on the right hand side, and it's what, 1 2 3 4 5 6, number 7 down. Now you can just click auto and auto will try to find the right balance for you, but you can see this church tower over here is moving away to the right, and this is moving away to the left, and the bridge isn't completely straight. So I find these days that auto isn't as good as it used to be. I tend to prefer to use guided. So if you click on guided, it will give you a little cross with a window which zooms in on a certain area, so you can see very closely where you want to be. So I want these buildings on the left to be vertical, so I'm going to click on the drain pipe there, holding down the mouse. I'm going to go down as low as I can where I can see that drain pipe and let go. So I now know I want that as a vertical, and on this side I want this church to be a vertical as well. So I'm going to try and pick up on the side of this building here, and then I'm just going to go down to there. So it's now straightened left and right, so that's not too bad. Yep, I think I'm happy with that. Now I want to try and find a horizontal as well, and it's very difficult with the waterline here because it goes away from you, comes back again. So a good tip when you're looking at a bridge, if you want to center your whole picture around a particular item like a bridge, and you want to have it dead horizontal, what you can do is you can pick from a point on the bridge on one side. So I'm going to pick from the bottom of this arch here, right? And we know that there are 5 arches down the other side, 1 2 3 4 5, so it's got to go in the same position on this side. So if I click there, you'll see it will correct that to the horizontal. So that's actually, now the bridge is perfectly horizontal and these buildings are vertical. So I'm going to click done. I accept that. I'm happy with that. I'm going to go into crop. So this is the second one across on the toolbar at the top. And I think just ever so slight rotation required, just to make it feel a little bit more comfortable. I think that's probably around about right. Yeah, about there. And I'm going to pull the bottom up here, and I'm going to bring that top down just a little bit. We want the bridge in the center. This is what's important. That's the main image here. So we'll pop that there, and I'm going to bring, I don't want it too much as a pano, so I'm going to bring this left in here, just inside that drain pipe there. I want to keep this light in on the shot. That looks really nice. And on this side, I'm not sure I want the edge of this dock here, that you can see. This is where the vaporettos stop, the buses stop. But I have to be careful because I would like to keep that tower in the shot. So I'm going to have to probably come into about there, and maybe I'm going to have to paint this out just a little bit because it's a bit busy in this right hand corner here. So happy with that. I'm going to hit return, and yeah, we're going to sit with that crop. I quite like that. Yeah. So now I'm going to go into the basic functions. So at the top there, the basic functions, and I'm going to alter the image a little bit in terms of warmth and color. So I'm going to bring up the temp. And I think the temp's an amazing slider because it really brings alive, particularly morning and evening shots. It brings that, you could go further still. If you start to get this greenish hue that you can see on the water here, you can always increase the magenta. and that sort of starts to take that away. But if you go too far, it doesn't look natural. So I'm just going to bring that one back and bring this one back a little bit there, so it looks a little bit more natural. There we go. I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit, see where we sit with those. About 70 it looks like, and I'm not too sure where we're going to go with the highlights. If I bring the highlights down, that gives you more of an evening look. If I bring them up, yeah, that gives you a brighter sky. Now the brighter sky is a good thing, because what that will do is it will give us more contrast for the sky, and that will make the sky replacement a little bit easier. So I'm going to increase contrast just a little bit as well. I'm going to go to my blacks and my whites. I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key, and holding that down I can now move my slider to see, you know, if I go all the way to the right we bring a lot of white in, if I go all the way to the left we get minimum. But the lamps are breaking through as is, so I'm just going to come down a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same with the black. Hold down the Option or Alt key and just introduce just a little bit of black, you can see there, just so we've got good contrast on the image. So for now, I think I'm going to go through to Photoshop. I want to remove some of these TV aerials. I want to put the sky in and create a more of a nighttime warmth look. So let's right click on the image. Let's go to Edit in Adobe Photoshop 2023. So I'm going to click that. So it will transfer it across into Photoshop. There you go. And then we can look at the sky replacement. So before I do that, I am going to remove these aerials and this little bit of distraction down here. Let's start off down here. Now a great tool for taking out whole areas is the patch tool. Now you can find it behind the spot healing tool. If you right click on the spot healing tool, you will find it. I tend to separate my tools out because I like to keep them separate there. They're easy to access. So we want to draw around the area that we want to remove. So I'm just going to cut through there, draw around the outside of that, and then just come up here and join that back up. So we've got a little square of the bit we want to remove. And then I'm going to click and hold and move to the left. There we go. And let go. So I'm going to Command or Control D to just remove that edge there. Now you can see it's left quite a severe line there. Now there's a couple of ways. You can either try a different way of doing that. So I'm going to Command Z, come back, and Command or Control D undoes the ants. So just going to undo that there by using the Command or Control Z. And I'm going to get rid of the dancing ants, as I said, using Command or Control D. And I'm going to try again. I'm going to come in there, and I'm going to go out a little bit further this time, just to pick up those little waves, those ripples. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to move over, but this time I'm going to try and get the waves lined up. Can you see that there? Just try a little bit just to line them up. I'm going to come a bit more that way. There you go. So and that's Command or Control D. So that's much better. Now if I zoom in a little bit by holding down the Option key, you can still see there's a line. So what we can do is we can take the spot healing tool, make the brush reasonably big, and just paint over that line. And what it will do is it will try to blend those two together. So you can do a couple of passes if it's not working particularly well, and it will try to blend those edges together. If that doesn't work, another option, I'm just Control or Command Z undoing back to where I was. The other option is that you can go to the smudge tool, or you can go to the blur tool. So if you click on the blur tool, and we'll take reasonable sized brush, we can just go over that a few times and you can just blur that down. Sometimes that works quite well. I'm just going to undo that. But I think my favorite is probably going to be the healing tool. I'm just going to Command D the dancing ants there, and I'm just going to go over that line a couple of times until I'm comfortable that that it's taken out the line effect that we've got there. There we go, just doing a couple of strokes across there. Oh, that one didn't work. So just Command or Control Z. So that's got rid of it. I think that looks quite natural there now. So happy with that. So we're going to go up using the space bar, hold the space bar down and move up. Use the Option or Alt key and the wheel on your mouse to zoom in, not too far. And you can see there is quite a bit of noise in this image. We will have to deal with this shortly. So still in the spot healing tool, we're just going to make it much smaller. And then we're going to click once, hold down the Shift key and click towards the top. And then you can just paint out the things that you can see. That's it. Looks like there's a satellite dish there. Another aerial. Some lines over there. I'm not too worried about those, but I'll take them out whilst I'm here. Okay, holding the mouse down, just moving and painting over what you can see. Does an amazing job at getting rid of some people up on the roof there. It's interesting. Let's get rid of this one over here. So you can just paint them like I'm doing freehand, or you can use the Shift option like I showed you. Click Shift click to get rid of any straight lines. That works very well indeed. So people obviously like watching television in Venice because there's a lot of TV aerials here. So just getting rid of that one. I know it might seem like we go to way too much effort to get rid of it, but I always think that if one day somebody thinks, wow, that's a great picture, and they'd like a copy of it, I'd like to hope that I can give them a picture that doesn't have too many TV aerials in it. So look at that one. There we go. Let's paint that one out. Hopefully that's it. Yep, there's the edge of the image. I'm just going to take that one out there. Great. Right, holding down the Option key, I can zoom out. Hold down the Shift key, I can move the image about. There we go. Okay. So now we can do the sky replacement. So I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go down to sky replacement. You can see it here, and I'm going to click on that. Now the sky replacement tool's really very good actually, and it will automatically throw straight into your image. Just try and move this where I can put it. There we go. Whatever previous image you were using, it will pop that straight into the shot. And it looks lovely. That one there looks very nice. You got the blue up into the top corner. You've got this over here. You know, I didn't even pick one there. I didn't even pre-pick that. That was one from previous. So I'm pretty happy about keeping that one, to be honest. We can do something with that. I'd like to increase the temperature a little bit, so just make it a little bit more orange. There we go. You can move that slider more or less depending on how much you want. I think we probably want to go about there. I need to, this edge is a little bit bright along that edge, so we can reduce the fade edge. If you go too far one way, you can see it, you get like a mistiness over the edge. If you go too far the other way, then you end up with the sky coming in on the buildings. But because we've got such a hard edge, it's working very well actually, so I'm going to keep that quite low. And then you also have the Shift edge function as well. This will move the edge of the sky into the buildings or away from the buildings. You can see if I go too far to the right, then the sky actually bleeds completely into the top of the building. So you have to be careful as you bring that up that you don't dig too deep into the top of the buildings or the landscape, whichever that you're using. But that helps to give you a really nice sharp edge. We can zoom in using the Option or Alt key just to have a look at how well it's done. And in fact, it's done exceptionally well. I think here maybe a little bit there we could add in. If you want to add a little bit more, and you can go to the refine brush tool here, and you can just click on that just to brighten that up to show that it's in there. If you want to remove maybe these windows here are a bit too picking up the sky, you can press the Option or Alt key, and you can paint the sky effect out if you don't want it, where it's come through onto the building here, you can see. So that's using the Option or Alt key held down just to take some of that color away if it's bleeding through slightly. The refine brush tool, I don't think a lot of people really understand it, particularly when you're doing a sky replacement, and it's extremely useful, very, very helpful. You can see this church up here is definitely a little bit, just needs to come undone. So still holding down the Option or Alt key and just going around that one just to make sure the sky isn't discoloring the church tower too much. So yeah, that works very, very well. You can see there, you can see that the sky, I can make the brush bigger. Oops, there we go. Holding down the Option Alt key just to wash that color away. Let's go and zoom out just a little bit. Just make sure we're okay along here, which we are. I think that must be a roof line there. I'm just going to hold down the Option or Alt key. You can also, whilst holding down the Option or Alt key, then press Shift and click, and you'll get that straight line that we always look for. So just going to a little bit there as well. You can see, just take some of that color away. There we go. And on that little bit of scaffolding there. That's worked very well. The edge just needs picking up a little bit, so I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm not pressing the Option key now. I'm just going to click there once, hold down the Shift key and click again, and you can see it just picks up that line there. Make the brush bigger to just refill that top piece above it there. Using that refine tool, edge tool. It's going to come down there as well. There we go. I just need to dress that in just a little bit more through there. So that's it. And I think we've got it. That's good. I'm going to hold down the Option and Alt key and wheelie my mouse to just zoom back out again so we can see where we're at. So the last few adjustments, we can always flip and click the flick button, and that will move the sky over to the other side, or we can move it back. I think it's good because I think we might put a little sun over here in a moment. We've got foreground lighting, so that will affect obviously this area that's closer to us. If the more we go to the right or further to the left, you'll see the sky change in relationship to the buildings, particularly close in. And we're going to zoom out one more. There we go. And I'll move this over to this side. Watch over here. You can see that do you see how the foreground lighting in the front of the building there? So you can have it dark or you can have it really light. Now, of course, with that dark sky over on this side, we actually don't want too much, a little bit darker. Edge lighting helps deal with the very edge, again, where the building is. If you look again up here, you'll see as I go from one extreme to the other that you darken that edge rather than brighten that edge. Sometimes a bright sky needs those edges lifted so that you can match in with it. But in this case, I think we will go somewhere around about there, about 35. and then we just got the overall color adjustment. We can move that as well. That now deals with the main image trying to match the color to the color of the sky. So if you go all the way to the right, it tries to match the sky color, and if you go all the way to the left, it doesn't. So you can go back to that bluer color that we had previously. So you actually want to have quite a bit of that, I think, in this case. So we're just going to go further over to the I'm going to go about 90 actually. So final little fiddle would be with the brightness. We could bring the sky brightness down just a little bit, and that works quite well. Yep, that works very well indeed. Good. So I'm going to accept that. There we go, and it's created a new layer, the previous layer without and the new layer with. Now we do need to do something with the water to make sure that we get this match. Now either we can do a reflection of the sky into here. With the water not being particularly smooth, that won't look altogether natural. But we could transfer some of the color into it. So what I can do is I'm just going to unlock this top. I'm just going to turn off. I don't need that bottom layer yet. This top layer that we've got now, this background copy it's called here, I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. I'm going to call it reflection. Okay, and then with the reflection layer, I need to effectively make sure I'm selected it, which I have. It's got a little white box around it. I'm then going to go to Command T, so that is transform. You can get to it in edit. Free transform, there we go. So Command or Control T selects that. Once it's selected, I can right click on the screen, and down the bottom I can flip it vertical, right? So I can turn the layer upside down. Now what I'm going to do now it's turned upside down is I'm just going to press escape to come out of transform. Apologies, I need to press return, not escape. Let me just do that again. So I'm just going to vertically flip and then hit return. I then take the reflection, holding down the layer. I'm going to put it behind the background copy. So if I turn off the background copy, you can see the upside down. So what I want to do with the background copy is I want to make it transparent, so I can just see what I'm doing with the bottom one. So I'm just going to go to the blending mode. You'll see here it says normal, and I'm just going to go down to screen. Okay. So what I've now got is the top layer is semi-transparent. I can see through it. So if I go to the reflection layer, click on the reflection layer there, go to the move hold tool there, and I can now move the reflection layer down. Can you see? And I can make a nice reflection of the bridge, like so. Let's say I think we should go about there. Now that pink line you see down the middle, that indicates that we are exactly true, square to the original image. So I've moved that down, you can see that there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into the background copy and click the blending mode and change it back to normal. Okay. Now in the background copy, I want to create a mask. Okay, so I use this little rectangle with a circle in it down the bottom right corner, as you can see down here, this little thing here, and that gives you a mask. Now white conceals, black reveals. So at the moment nothing is showing through from this layer. If I take a black brush, so I can go over here to on the bottom left hand corner, over the left hand side, you'll see the color chart here. You can click on that and it will give you the color charts. At the moment I've got it set to black and white, so very bottom left corner as opposed to very top left corner, which is black and white. Okay, if I press X or press these two little arrows, it will swap to the brush color being white or the brush color being black, and X does that as well. So now we're going to grab a brush. You can go to brush here, the brush tool, or you can just press B, and I can effectively select a brush, and bear in mind that the mask is illuminated here, not the image. The mask is illuminated, which means we're going to paint on that white mask. So if we take black, and if I just make a big black brush and I just paint a line across here, you will see that it will paint through the reflection, because I'm painting black onto white and I'm revealing. So I'm just going to Command or Control Z to undo that. So depending on the amount of flow I have will depend on how much will come through of the reflection. So let's just reduce the flow down to about 50%, occupancy at 70%, that's fine. And I've got the this is the airbrush style, so I can build up using an airbrush style way of painting. So I can come in here, and that's way too strong. As you can see, that's way too strong. Gives us a very good reflection. You know, in fact, that might even work, just doing a quick pass like that. I'm just going to need to do something with this water in terms of the reflection's a bit too sharp. So what we could do, now we've just painted that in there, is we go back onto the reflection layer up here in the top right corner, click reflection layer, go to filter, and we want to blur the water a little bit. So we can go to blur, okay, and then in blur we can go down to motion blur, okay, because what we want to do is create the effect of water, and water tends to drag an image north to south, up to down. So if we go to motion blur and apply an angle of 90 degrees, so straight up and down, and then we can move the divider, the slider here, look, to give us more or less of a blur. You can see that with more, we can really blur it crazily, which doesn't look natural. Or we can blur it a little bit like so. Probably just come down just a little bit. That's good. I'm going to go there, and I'm also going to go back into filter, go back into blur. I'm going to go to Gaussian blur, and that does an overall like average blur. So you can add more of a blur if you want to, or less of a blur. You see, so you can choose how much of a blur that you want, just to sort of make it look more natural or not natural. I'm actually going to bring that right back. I think we're going to go there. Just got a slight bit of blur on it. So I think yeah, we would have a little bit of a reflection of that boat there as well, but we're not too worried with that one. And that boat would also have its own reflection a little bit, but I think for the purposes of this, I'm quite happy. I might go back into the just zoom out slightly. I might go back into the mask, and if I feel that that's a bit too much, I can swap back to white by using X or pressing these two little buttons. I can reduce the occupancy and flow quite a bit, and I can take a bigger brush and I can undo it slowly by going back over it. I can lift the reflection out if you saw what I was doing there. So I can really bring that back to the bottom there, and this bit of sky, just bring that back so we haven't got too much. Yeah, just a little bit there, so you got the reflection. And if we want to bring it back up again, we press X, change to black. Because we're still in the in the mask, we can add it back in again. It's not a problem. So you can pick and choose how much that you want to go in there. So I'm just going to take a little bit out from the bottom, from this side over here, and a little bit from there, and we've got the color in there. So good. So I'm going to click on the bottom layer, which I don't want. I'm going to right click on it and delete it, and then I'm going to bring these two layers and this mask impression all together. So you highlight both by clicking on one, holding down the shift and clicking on the other, clicking on them, going down to merge layers, and it will make it into a single layer. Now if you want to, you can leave them as separate layers, so you can go back later and make changes again if you wish, but it does make for a very big file when it comes back into Lightroom. I tend to just, when I'm happy with it, bring it into a single layer, and then I'm going to send it back into Lightroom. To do that, I click File, Close. Okay, don't go to Save As. File, Close, and then it brings you up this dialog. And then you click Save, and now it will put it back into Lightroom. So go back into Lightroom. There you go. The images come back into Lightroom. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to need to do just a little bit of work on this to really make it work. And I think I might even put let's try putting the sun in the sky up here to see if we can get a nice reflection down here. Now to do that, I'm going to go to masks and I'm going to click on radial gradient, and I'm going to take a small sun, nice round circle just in there, and I'm just going to bring up the brightness. Right, just bring it up like this. It's not too much. Then I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right click, duplicate the mask, and I'm going to put a bigger one in. So just and I'm just going to reduce the brightness of that one, but you see we get like a glare in the sky where the sun is. So that works quite well. And I'm just going to bring some color into this one as well. So now it is bleeding through onto those buildings. So in this particular radial gradient, which we're in, you can subtract the sky. Now you might say, well, why would you do that? That's the bit you want. But then you click invert. So it takes away the buildings and leaves the sky illuminated. So I'm going to click on that again. No, I'm not going to click on that again. Apologies. I'm going to create a new mask, a new radial gradient, and I'm going to do the same down here in the water. Now this time it'll be a little bit bigger because the light will have spread out a little bit more. I'm going to just brighten that up, add some color to it like we did as such. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate the mask and do a smaller one. But this time I'm going to just drag it out a little bit more, add a little bit more color to it. And we're just going to have that sort of dragged out effect there. Now I'm going to go a bit brighter because I'm going to actually darken this area in a minute. So we're just going to do that. That looks quite good. Okay, now I'm going to go back, create a new mask, and this time a linear gradient, and I'm going to pull from the bottom left corner up across here. And I'm going to darken this bottom right corner. Just see how far down we can go. We can go a little way. And then I'm going to bring down the highlights. Just play with those and the shadows just a little bit. I'll bring that brightness back up. So you see now that is, it could be brighter. So I think I'm going to go back into this one, which is the bigger one below it, make it slightly bigger, and just brighten that a little bit more. There we go. That's looking good. Right, now I'm going to create another new mask, another linear gradient. I'm going to come in from the top left corner, pulled down across, and I'm going to darken that slightly, not too much, and I'm going to add some more blue into that top left corner. So we get this color wheel effect, which is the opposite of blue is orange. And on the color wheel you'll notice that there are different colors in different directions, and that gives you a sense of color contrast. But I don't want the buildings to be blue, so I'm going to subtract the sky, and then I'm going to invert the sky. So we've still got the blueness in the sky, but the buildings are lit up. There we go. Right, now the sun's being here is going to cast a lovely amount of light over this side here. So we're going to create another radial gradient. We're going to take a nice big chunky one like that. We're going to bring it down lower. We're going to turn it to face the sun so that the line's the same. And we're just going to try to see if we can just bring up a bit of an exposure down this far end here. This is looking quite nice here. I'm going to subtract the sky because I don't want that bit lit up. That's it. I'm going to take another radial gradient. This time I'm going to pull one over this side on the buildings. I'm going to shape it to the shape of the sun there, like so. And then I'm going to brighten up, plenty of colour and brightness on these buildings over here. Pop in some clarity as well, just to make them pop over there. Just to add in a bit more magenta. So that looks nice as well. Don't want it over here, and I don't want it in the sky. So first I'm going to do is subtract the sky. That's gone. Second thing I'm going to do is subtract a brush. Going to make sure I've got 100% feather, and I'm going to go 50% flow, and I'm just going to take a small brush and just work my way in over here and just darken that down there. So just coming in there. There we go. So we've got a lot of light on this side. In fact, I might even narrow that just to give me almost a beam of light coming down there. And that's the sky. Let's just see, maybe narrow this one down as well. Try and find the right place for it. This corner turns, so this wouldn't be bright around this corner. So on that one, I'm going to subtract a brush. I'm going to go with a hard edge, so quite a low feather, 5%, 100% flow. And I'm just going to, in the line of this edge of this building here, I'm just going to click once, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom here, and I'm going to shift click to just take out that corner, so you can see the light comes to that edge there, and that looks really quite nice with the light coming in over there. We do need to dress this up in a few other little places. I think what I'd like to do is boost the lighted area where the people are all around here. So to do that, I'm going to create a mask, create a brush, I'm going to put in 100% feather, about 50% flow. I'm going to put in some color, a little bit magenta, and bring up the brightness a little bit. Going to bring up the highlights, and I'm just got a little bit of saturation, but most importantly, a big chunk of clarity. So quite a big brush. Just going to work my way around here, painting around. You see how that just makes it glow. Let's get that boat as well, and remember just to pick up the reflections in the water as well. We can do that. There we go. Just a little bit more on the bridge, makes the bridge light up. Looks fabulous. Really powerful tool. I need to darken that a little bit up at the top left there, so I'm just going to go back onto this one here, and I had a minus brush, so I'm just going to go back in here with with a low feather, quite a high flow, and I'm just going to go in there and just take out that illuminated area there, so we've got the shadow. Same there, smaller brush, just darken that area down. Same on the end of this building here. Just going to take that out. I also need to go down to this one, and on that one I need to, where I just subtract a brush, I'm also going to just go down, just pick up smaller brush. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. There we go. Just gonna, not too small a brush, just gonna take that edge away. That's it. That's looking good. All right, zoom back out again. Well, I think we're getting pretty close to being happy with this. I might just reduce the clarity on these clouds here, so I can create a new mask, select a brush, go 100% feather, going to go quite high on the flow. I'm going to go negative clarity just in here, and just break that down a little bit on this reflection. Just break it down a little bit over this area. I think I might even reduce the texture as well. Oh no, I think I might. Yeah, I'll bring the texture down just a little bit. Now I do want some contrast in here, so I'm going to select another brush. So create a new mask, brush. I'm going to put some contrast in and just build a little bit of contrast into this shot as well here. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So let's just have a look at the noise. So we'll zoom in 200%. And we can see there is quite a bit of noise there. So we're going to go down to detail, and in detail we're going to move up the luminance, the noise reduction slider, until the noise looks like it's controlled. That looks better. A bit more. Yeah, that's perfect. But we've lost some sharpness now. So what I do want to do is bring up the sharpness, and I generally use a rule here where sharpness and luminance add up to 100. So if I've gone 44 there, I want to go 56 there, and that will give me a nice balance between the two. But the big key here is the masking slider. If you hold down the Option or Alt key and grab the masking slider, you will start, as you start to move it, see that it will move across. Now anything that's white will be sharpened, and anything that's black will have the noise reduction put against it. If you go too far, it turns a bit comic-y. So I think in this case we're probably looking around about 50 there. And that would just breaks up the edge. So if we now go back to the main fit all, we'll have quite a sharp image, and we'll have a reduction in overall noise. So I think I'm almost there. I believe this is a little bit bright over this side, so I can click on that radial gradient that we had, and I can go into the sliders here and just bring that down just a little bit. Maybe pop in a little bit more clarity in there. I may even bring up the highlights just a little bit there. Find that balance point between the two. Now the reflection in the water needs to be brighter, so I can create a new mask, grab a brush, increase exposure slightly on a brush there, and just come in here and just brighten that up. You can see you can just pick those up as though they're actually probably a bit too bright. I'm just going to Control Z, undo those, create brush, reduce the flow, keep the feather high, increase the exposure, and I can just then pick them up a little bit. There we go. Maybe pick up the bridge a little bit there as well. I'm going to add some contrast into that brush as well. Yeah, I think one of the very last things is another brush, big chunk of clarity and contrast, and I just want to pick up that sky a little bit more just to make it stand out. There we go, that looks great. So I think we're there. I think the color's a bit much, so we're just going to come out of the masks, go into the basic functions. We're just going to reduce the saturation slightly, just a little bit, and then we're just going to increase the vibrance just a little bit. The vibrance is color contrast. It gives you color in a sort of contrasty way, which looks very, very nice. Going to reduce the overall clarity just slightly, just to balance the image out. That works quite well. And I think maybe a post-crop vignette. So we're going to go down to effects at the bottom, and you've got post-crop vignette. We're just going to slide this to the left, which will darken the corners. And then on the feather slider, I'm going to slide that to 100, and you just get this sort of vignette effect, just bringing the image in. That looks quite nice. And then just to finish off, we'll just do some we will just do some slider modifications here. Bring the highlights down just slightly, bring the shadows up just a little bit. Quite happy with that. A little bit brighter, a little bit of contrast. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So so that's where we were, if you recall, and this is where we started. In fact, if I reset that one, that's where we started. So we took quite a mundane picture, blue hour, and then we changed it into that, something that pops a little bit more. Maybe the reflection is a bit too obvious. Maybe we could undo that a little bit, but just trying to show you the techniques that we use. And you know, you can always do a little bit less in the way of a reflection if you wanted to. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. So please like if you did. I very much appreciate that. And if you're enjoying the work that I'm doing, I'd love you to subscribe. You can continue on my adventure here on YouTube. So until the next video, goodbye for now.